Hello, everybody. Ron, aka Daddy Geek, here with another Disney Infinity 2.0 toy box tutorial. Sorry, I can't help but laugh when I see Stitch there. As you can see, I'm using Stitch today because Disney Originals came out this week, and I had to just get Stitch because Stitch is totally awesome. So anyway, today's tutorial video is brought to you by the letter A. A as in Action Enforcer and Ability Terminal. Those are the two Creativa toys we're going to go over today. So let's get, without further delay, let's get started here. This little guy right next to me here, this is the Action Enforcer. And what the Action Enforcer does is it makes the player or players perform a specific action. That player or players will lose control of their character for a few seconds while the game forces their character to perform a certain action. Anything from celebrate to float or trip, several different things. And I have set up an entire little row here of all the different examples of all the different types of actions that can be enforced. But in order for those actions to take place, you need some type of trigger. In this case, we are going to use a trigger area to cause the Action Enforcer to fire off. You can use any type of Creativa toy, any type of logic connection really that you want to, but we're just going to, for the sake of this video, use trigger areas. Alright, so in order to make this work, what we're going to do is we're going to target our trigger area. We're going to do a new logic connection, entered, player, any, and we're going to select the Action Enforcer. And as you can see, there is an entire list of different types of actions that you can force the player to do. We're just going to go down a list here. So this first one here, we're going to do celebrate. And now once you select what type of action, you can assign it to triggering player, which that's the player that actually triggered the Action Enforcer to fire off. All would be every single player. And then player 1 through 4. And one nice thing about players assigning it to a specific player is if you're using a versus challenge map or something like that, like a multiplayer map, you can find creative ways to have the players I don't know, hit switches, push buttons, hit certain targets, and it will cause the opposing player to lose control of their character and do something for a few seconds. So you can be kind of creative and have a lot of fun with it. But for this example, we're going to use triggering player. So now when we walk through that trigger area, we're going to do the celebrate. We're going to lose control of Stitch for a few seconds, and he's going to celebrate. Before we do that, though, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn off the trigger area once the action is done. That way we don't get stuck in a constant loop of Stitch just doing a celebrate. That's one reason why I used the trigger areas in this video, so I can point out something that you want to be careful of. Some of these actions can cause the player to be stuck in a loop if you use a trigger area. Because what happens is the type of action that gets performed when you lose control of your character, they kind of bounce back into the trigger area or reactivate it somehow, and the player can just get stuck in a constant, never-ending loop of that certain action. So what we're going to do is we're going to deactivate the trigger area, which is... did I already do that? Is that what I did? That's what we're going to do right now. We're going to deactivate the trigger area. So what we do is we target our Action Enforcer. We do a new logic connection. We're going to do action attempted. We're going to target the trigger area, and we're going to deactivate. So now once we do the celebration, the trigger area will turn off, and we'll be done. Now all the rest of these, all the way down the road, they've already been done. I've already set them up. And they also are connected to a text creator. That way I can show, not only can I tell you what action's being performed, but we can, you can actually see it written up there on the screen. So let's go ahead and walk in here and see what happens. As you can see, this is celebrate, so Stitch does a nice little celebration there, and then that's it. Now you'll see that I can enter and exit this trigger area as much as I want, and it won't fire off again anymore. Alright, so now we're going to move right down the line here, and I'm going to show you an example of each type of action that can be performed. Next one is lament. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's the opposite of celebrate. Instead of being happy and celebratory, he's upset and sad because he failed at, some type of challenge or action or what have you. Alright, the next one is trip. And as you can see, Stitch there trips. Now, I stopped pushing forward. Normally, the trip action is, if I would have kept pushing forward, he would actually fell forward. I kind of messed that up a little bit. I shouldn't have stopped pushing forward. But you get the idea, he'll trip. Let's see, the next one is Bloat. And as you can see, Stitch's head blew up like a balloon there. That causes the player to blow up like a balloon. Stitch's head blew up. Different characters do different things. Some of them, their body might actually inflate, blow up, but it all depends on the actual character that triggers the action enforcer. And I'm not sure what you would use that for, but as you can see, it's pretty goofy. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. The next one is Freeze, and poor Stitch got frozen. So you can shush. So you can find. Sorry, my dog started barking. You can find all kinds of ways to use that. All right, the next one is Knockback, and that is one that no matter which direction you're pushing on the controller, the player will get knocked backwards. So that we're actually gonna use that a little bit later in this video as another example. The next one is Web, and as you can see, he looks like he got shot by Spider-Man's web. Yeah, I could see someone using that in a cave. You have a bunch of spiders in a cave or something, and you walk through and you walk into some webs. Let's see what else we got here. Shock. As you can see, poor Stitch got electrocuted there. He got shocked. And then finally we have Float. And I've actually used this in a few of my other tutorials. I really enjoy that one. As you can see, Stitch got floated up into the air, lost complete control of the character, and he just came tumbling back down to the ground. But that one was a perfect example of why, if you're using a trigger area, you want to deactivate it once the action is attempted, because the character will float higher than the actual trigger area, and sometimes they kind of like move a little bit to the left or right. So then what happens is when they land and stand back up, it will fire off the trigger area again, which will in turn fire off the action enforcer, and the player can get stuck in a continuous loop of floating. So just keep that in mind if you're using trigger areas along with action enforcers. Alright, so now we're going to move along, and we're going to go over to the other side of the map here. And I am going to show you the ability terminal. And I'm going to show you what that does, how we can use it, and I'm also going to tie it all together and use action enforcers as well, and show you ways that you can use them in your toy box. What I have set up over here is I have an archway. And in that archway, it's guarded by a laser grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to use an ability terminal to turn off that laser grid so we can walk through. We have a trigger area in front of the laser grid because I'm going to show you some creative ways that you can use an action enforcer here. But first, let's open up our editor and let's find the ability terminal. So we'll scroll over here, and as usual, I went the wrong way, but that's typical of me. And here we go, we've got our ability terminal. And before I place it, let me delete the hitbox from the old one. I was doing some experimentation, so I left that up by accident. Alright, so we'll plop this down. And as you can see, it's a holographic image, and in this case it's showing the character flying. Now, some people are getting confused and thinking that the ability terminal is the logic toy that you would use to enable or disable things like flying or super strength or web or wall crawling. That's not correct. What the ability terminal is just think of it as a fancy holographic switch or trigger, because that's exactly what it is. It's just a terminal that can only be accessed by a player with that specific skill set, and if that player has that specific skill set, they can access the terminal, and basically it's just used like a button. So for example, if we had a player that could fly right now, he could walk up to this ability terminal and he could hit the button and he could use it. But since Stitch can't fly, we'll walk up here and nothing will happen. Alright. So, but let's bring up the properties and I'll show you how this all works. So target our ability terminal here, and we're going to bring up the properties, and then as you can see, the character type is flight. That's what you see the little symbol of. Well, we're going to change that. As you can see, you got flight, maximum strength, super jump, tech, wall crawl, web sling. We're going to do tech. So now you'll see that the ability terminal will now change to a symbol of the tech. And we're going to back out of that, and now we're going to do a new logic connection. And what we're going to do is we're going to, you only have one option here. It's called terminal hacked, which is just means you use the terminal. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight our trigger area, and we're going to deactivate that. And you'll see why in a few minutes. After that, we're going to do new logic connection, terminal hacked, and we're going to actually, the whole idea here is to turn off this laser grid. Uh-oh. If I can target said laser grid. And then it doesn't want to target the laser grid. Target the laser grid, please. Hello? Laser grid. Oh, I had it. I lost it. I had it. I lost it. And I lost it. Hey. Give me. There we go. And we're going to turn that off. Got a little dodgy there for a second. Alright, so now if we have the tech ability, we'll be able to turn off the trigger area and also the laser grid. Now here's why we're going to want to turn off the trigger area. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this trigger area to create a little row here of action enforcers. So what we'll do is we'll highlight the trigger area. We'll do new logic connection, entered, player, any, and we'll target our first action enforcer over here. And we are actually going to pick, we're going to try this out here, we're going to pick shock. And we're going to do triggering player. So what happens now is when we walk up to this laser grid, instead of like normally when you walk up to a laser grid, if you hit the laser grid, you get you instantly get killed, you die. What we're going to do instead though is we're going to actually make it look like you got electrocuted by the grid. So watch what happens here. We'll walk up here and poor Stitch got electrocuted. Now, we can't just leave it like that because then the player could just continually walk underneath the grid anyway. So what we want to do is we kind of want to make this so the player can't get through unless they use that ability terminal. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make another connection here. We're going to bounce this, the shock action, we're going to create a new action that will knock the player backwards. So what we're going to do is new logic connection from that action enforcer, action attempted. We'll highlight, no we won't. We'll highlight the, we'll highlight the time delayer, and we'll say start delay. That way we have just a split-second gap between the actions that are enforced. It'll make things go a little bit smoother. We'll make the animation more smoother. More smoother? Is that correct English? Who knows. Anyway, now we're going to target our time delayer here, and we're going to do new logic connection, delay completed, and we'll highlight our next action enforcer, and we're going to say knockback and triggering player. So what happens here is now when we walk up to this trigger area, first we'll get shocked, and then we'll get knocked backwards. So let's try that out. And there goes poor Stitch, gets knocked backwards. And that worked out pretty well. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we are going to take this one more step, and we're going to make it so that when the player does turn off the terminal, not only do they deactivate the trigger area and the laser grid, but they get a little celebration as well. So what we'll do is here we'll make another new logic connection from our ability terminal. New logic connection, terminal hacked. And we'll highlight this delayer, time delayer. We'll say start delay. We'll do a new logic connection from the time delayer, delay completed. And we'll say celebrate. Triggering player. So now if we are able to hack this terminal, not only will we do all the good things that come along with it, but we'll get a little celebration. And again, as you can see, Stitch here cannot do a single thing to this ability terminal. He does not have the tech ability. So one more time, we'll walk up to the trigger area, get shocked, and knocked backwards. And we need to find a way to turn it off. Since Stitch can't do it, we're going to switch characters here. I'm going to pop on Iron Man so he can have it, because he has the tech ability. Now, as you can see, as soon as I popped Iron Man onto the Infinity base, that ability terminal, that text symbol went from red to green. That lets you know that you can use it. So we'll walk up here with Iron Man. As you can see now, instead of nothing happening, I actually have the ability to, I get the prompt to use it. So we're going to hit use, And there you go. You get all the holographic images, and as you can see, the laser grid got turned off, and Iron Man did his little celebration there. So we'll walk over here, and as you can see, no more getting shocked and knocked back. And that is pretty much it. I know, shock, right? I created a tutorial video under 20 minutes. Aren't you impressed? But really, that's it. These two toys are actually kind of, they're kind of simple. They can actually be used in a variety of ways, but they're very simple toys. Especially that action force. As you can see, there's several different types of actions, and you can really, just get creative and find different ways to use them. It's just yet another toy in your toy box that you can use to make your toy box that much better. And how many times can I use the word toy box in one sentence? There you go. I was going to go somewhere else with that, but I'll just stop for now before I get myself into trouble. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I hope this one helped. And as always, take care and bye-bye.